You're listening to Tauren Think Tank, the World of Warcraft podcast for you, the World of Warcraft player. Hello and welcome to episode 175 of Tauren Think Tank. Today's date is February 1st, 2016, and as you can probably tell by now, I'm not Jules. That's right, this is Marconin, and I'm actually on my way home still from PAX South this past weekend. And I know we said we weren't going to do a show this week because of the convention, but we were able to record our panel at PAX South. We tried to stream it on Periscope, but because of the cell reception and cell signal inside the convention center was really bad. So instead, I had a camera, and we were luckily able to get it recorded. And so what Jules and I decided over the weekend is that we would go ahead and take the audio from that and just put it up on the stream so you guys could listen to it. The panelists are Dr. Anthony Bean, PhD, Dr. Holiday Bean, PsyD, and of course, there's also Jules and me, Marconin, from Tauren Think Tank, from Triple T. All these little letters. Let's go ahead and get this started. This was the panel we did on Friday, January 29th, 2016, called Traversing the Cow Level, The Challenges of Gamers in Real Life at PAX South 2016.
You know, we definitely all want to say is thank you so much for showing up for this. I don't think we were expecting quite a large crowd. You guys pretty much fill up the entire audience here, which is very nice. We have some good stuff. So to kind of give a quick little introduction is all of us have been playing video gamers, and all of us, well, actually, not all of us. Not all of us. And we kind of have all used it to our advantage on some level to work through life, to better ourselves, to do something with it. On that, we figured that it would be a good idea to kind of like share this type of knowledge and kind of like discuss maybe some questions and stuff like that at the end. But first, I wanted to kind of introduce our fun panelists here. We are missing one, and that's because he got stuck in Baltimore. Snowstorm.
Thank you.
Gotta love it. He was our statistician, so all stats questions get directed towards me. Trying to be nice. Yes. So who I have here is our lovely Jules. She is the founder.
That's a table right there.
She is the founder and co-host of Tauren Think Tank.
/moo, baby.
A podcast that covers the lives of gamers in the World of Warcraft for the past 3.5 years. Her co-host, I got that one right, is Marconin, Corey right over here. And pretty much Tauren Think Tank has been considered the, Dear Abby of podcasts. You reach in, you send letters to them, you ask them questions, you tweet at them, email, everything. And they bring these questions to life. They bring in people around the area that have expertise, specialty, things like that, and they really, yes, I am one of them, and they bring in these people, and they really kind of develop these stories and help people really understand themselves differently. Jules is also a life coach and a leader of Well Played, an organization that creates an annual community party at BlizzCon, and Marconin, also known as Corey, but Marconin is what I call him, is see, there is a table there. Wow. It has a degree in broadcast journalism and is a freelance voiceover artist and audio producer. Is it my turn to hit the desk now? Yes, please do. It's not hollow right there for some reason. Yeah. Our other panelist over here is Dr. Holiday Bean. She is a psychologist over in the Fort Worth area, and she is a self-described non-gamer, although I will disagree that she does play those free-to-play games a lot and does do certain things with them. But she works with adolescents the entire lifespan on a lot of different psychological type of stuff. And she's very good at what she does. She's also my wife, so I've got to talk. I'm the other Dr. Bean on this panel, and my research interests and therapy interests are in video gamers, identity formation, and kind of what do the video games kind of bring to the table. And with that, I kind of want to pass it over to our fun co-host right here. Jules.
Not co-horse, yes.
Not co-horse.
So why are we here today? The title of the panel is called Traversing the Cow Level, the Challenges of Gamers in Real Life. And we all know that being a gamer is awesome, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. But who here has had someone in their life, in their world, make a face at you when you have said you were a gamer? Who here has had someone ask you why you're still living in your parents' basement? Or at least alluded to it. You still live in your parents' basement? You know, one of the things that we've talked about on Torrent Think Tank very often is that being a gamer is awesome, but for some of us, not everybody understands our love for gaming and why we feel that we are as much a part of our community as anybody else who doesn't play video games. Have you guys ever felt like you've had to defend your love of gaming to somebody who doesn't understand it? Seeing the nods and the hands, yeah. And that's why we're here today, is to talk about that from a social perspective from Marconin and me, and also from a psychological perspective from Tony and Holiday. So that's why we want to talk about that. You guys are going to be a part of this too, because it is about you. And we're going to be having an opportunity to have questions as well, because we want to be able to have you pose it to, especially these guys. You know, we brought the experts for a reason, because they study this stuff, and it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely, and I do think that one of the key things is what Jules did say is we are going to open it up at some point to questions from the audience, and we will field them, and we'll do the best we possibly can to field them. From all sorts of different areas. You've got psychological from us, and from me and Holiday, and you've got the community building from these two over here. So one of the things that we wanted to start off with, well, before I get into that, is we do have a slight little giveaway type thing for the first person to ask a question. And it is Richard Stanton's brief history of video games. So the first person to ask us a question gets a awesome copy of it.
Look at this.
Look at this. It already starts.
End of the panel, guys. End of the panel.
When we open it up, we will do that.
Maybe we'll ambush them in the middle, let them do like a question in the middle or something.
Free for all.
Yeah, maybe.
Ooh. Have fun with this. So one of the things is where we wanted to start off with is how we came to be a gamer. Where has it brought us from our lives, and kind of give us each a little bit of how did we become this place, this type of person, this identity, this formation of who we are, it's at our inner core. And with that, I actually wanted to start with Marconin, if possible.
Yes.
When did I first realize I was a gamer?
Yeah, and how did you become to kind of accept the identity and really work with it?
Well, you know, growing up, everybody around me would play a little bit of video games here or there, you know, the Atari, the Nintendo, Super NES, and it was just kind of one of those things where I had a few friends, and I didn't really feel like I had the name gamer attached to me at that point. It was only when I started playing in the massive multiplayer online games. You know, I started with the Matrix Online, rest in peace. That's when I first kind of really attached to it, and I'd always been a gamer. It had always been a part of my life. I felt it was like, you know, it was like a shirt you wear. It's an identifier, but it wasn't part of who I was quite yet. And it was only when I started interacting with all the other people around the world and coming to conventions like this that it really started to soak in and actually became part of me, even more so. And I think that's about when I would say it really latched on, was several years ago when I was playing those games.
I really like the image that you kind of just did, was it's a shirt that I wear.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a big deal, a big proponent of what we are as gamers, is we sometimes, the culture and society makes us feel like crap for it, for us being gamers. Oh, you're antisocial. Oh, you live in your mom's basement. Oh, you mustn't be very smart. Oh, you must be someone that doesn't contribute to society on some level. I mean, all these are natural stereotypes that have continuously gone through. Researcher-wise, Rachel Coward, she's down in Houston right now, is a big proponent of breaking these stereotypes. And if you guys want to know more about her research, I would definitely encourage you to look at her. She is very open, and she will respond to emails very quickly.
Spell her last name, do you know?
Kowert, Rachel Coward.
Everybody with smartphones is pulling them out right now.
She's pretty awesome. And so one of those things is having that identity, that shirt, that's something that you wear instead of letting it kind of seep into your core. It's one of those hard things to do. It's like coming out of the army and realizing that you're a civilian again. It's just one of those weird things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jules? How did you become a gamer?
Well, my story's kind of different. I started playing video games with an Atari 2600 as a kid. You know, shout out to all the people who are nodding who are old, like me. But you know, we are part of that initial gaming generation with the Atari 2600, the Commodore 64, all of those things. I loved it. It was awesome. And when I got to be around maybe my early preteens, I wanted a Nintendo 64 like you wouldn't believe. And I couldn't, my parents never got me one. They didn't want me to have one. They didn't feel like that was where we were going as a gaming family, I guess. We weren't really encouraged to game, but I would go to the arcade all the time and be like, yeah, Pac-Man and pinball machines and all that stuff. And then I lost the gaming thing for about maybe 15 years or so, where I just didn't game a whole lot because I wasn't around people who did. And I was encouraged to play City of Heroes when City of Heroes was out. And I'm thinking like, wait a minute, you have to pay to play this video game? Like what? What is this? But what I didn't realize is what a different, amazing world it was. And so City of Heroes led me to World of Warcraft, which led me to all the Blizzard games. I'm a crazy, rabid Heroes of the Storm fan right now. So it is, and then when Torrent Think Tank when we decided to start putting that together, it was about thinking about us as a community. And as people, not just someone who sits in their living room playing a game, but that we were interacting with others and creating communities and having interpersonal problems. And so my origins started out from me wanting to play and then not playing and then coming back to it and realizing how cool it was and why wasn't I doing this more. So that was where it came from me. What about you? Where did you start? Because you know, when you're talking about psychology, there's not a lot of people in the field who would say gaming is something that they would count as one of their hobbies.
Yeah, in our field of psychology, we pretty much are divided into lots and lots of different camps. Some of us are pro gamers, some of us are against gamers. Very divided in a lot of different areas. I grew up playing Nintendo. I was playing Nintendo at the age of 4, had the original Game Boy, still have all the original Pokemon games. They're fantastic for everything. Very easy to change out the batteries too if you run them to the ground, which I had to learn at 16. So with that, I eventually continued on with Nintendo until about age 18 or so, falling in love with Zelda. Zelda for me is my game. That is it, and it's just a very powerful storyline, no matter which one you play. It follows a very similar storyline overall, no matter which game you do play. However, there's different little tiny things overall in each game that makes it quite unique and special. For me, it kind of helped me get through a lot of troubling times through high school, because high school, all sorts of fun with identity and everything. If you can survive high school, you can survive anything, I think. And so for me, that's kind of where my love came out from it, is once I got to undergrad, I went crazy. My first semester GPA at the end of it was a 0.63. It was great.
But he became a doctor.
But then, the next semester I brought it up to a 2.7 and graduated with a 3.5 because I retook some classes. However, yes, now I have a doctorate, but that's beside the point. It's when those things come out, it really depends on how we see ourselves and can we accept these parts of us and everything. But you know what's coming now is our self-described non-gamer of how she sees the world and things like that.
How I landed on this panel. I didn't marry into it, I promise. I have kind of an interesting perspective because I don't see myself as a gamer, and I'm definitely someone who used to look at people and say, do they live in their parents' basements? I get it. I've changed. I want to apologize. I came from growing up playing Nintendo. I don't have great hand-eye coordination, so video games are not that fun for me. Unless it's Mortal Kombat and I can kick everyone's butt. Because I just do this.
She literally beat me over in the little coin-op place over there, and what she was doing just all 6 buttons at once, and I'm like, I can't, there's no way to defend against that right now.
She makes up with determination, is what it is.
So my dad's a gamer, and I would watch him play, and sometimes it was fun to watch him play, and then sometimes I would feel really angry at the games because he would play and play and play, and he wouldn't play with me. So that built up a lot of resentment, not only at him, but really at video games, and what does it do, taking away from that. So then I go to college and I start dating and I choose gamer after gamer after gamer. I get it, daddy issues. It's a thing. I'm a string, I get it. And then I met Tony. And Tony has this incredible way of looking at video games, and not as something as an addiction, but as something as an immersion. And what he really pointed out is, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I have all the books and I've read them. Actually, I spent the last year reading all of them in a row 4 times. It's amazing. It is the best. But what he pointed out to me is there's really no difference between reading those books for hours on end and playing video games. One of them is just more socially acceptable than the other. And so that's something that I really take in with my own practice in working with teens and families. I can't tell you how many times I have parents come into my office and say, you know, they're addicted to video games or they have no friends. And then I start talking to the kid and they say, I have lots of friends. They're playing it for a social perspective. They like playing the games where they're talking to people. And that was something that I didn't really recognize, and it took me a long time to get to that other side. So, not a gamer, but I do have an appreciation for the culture.
One of the things that I find really compelling about what you said too is the connection with people, saying, I am playing with people, I am connecting with people. And I have had so many, I used to work as a sales associate working in a furniture store, which is a very competitive culture, a very, kind of a old boys club in a lot of ways. And when they found out that I was a gamer, they looked at me with these eyes that could have been dinner plates and said, you are a gamer? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, you don't look the type. Well, what am I supposed to look like? You know, I mean, I'm dressing professionally and I'm working in a job and I'm doing these things. And they're said, well, you're so nice and social with people. Yeah, because I have my headset on with Mumble all the time, talking to my raid team and telling them that they need to not stand in fire. Like, seriously.
She's really good at it.
I am really good at it.
I've raided with her. I can attest to that.
But what I found is still very difficult for people to understand in this world is, with the world of gaming that we have, that we've created friendships around the world. And I'm saying that literally right now. There's a gentleman in the front row who came here from Sweden to be a part of this panel with us. We have people that are in the Dallas area. We have people who have traveled all over the place. And it is fantastic to see that when we've been able to connect. My biggest challenge in the world is that my friends live in 50 different states and all these different countries, and it's hard for me to be like, hey, I just want to have a beer with somebody. That's the hardest thing for me, which is the completely opposite.
Well, it's interesting to kind of go off that. There is so you all have friends that you play with that you may have met through the gaming culture, through these games. And then I have parents that come in, or even colleagues that say, well, those aren't real friends.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Like nails on a chalk.
And it's become nails on a chalkboard to me, because why is that not a friend? That's someone you talk to, that's someone you engage with, that's someone who you're spending time with. Just because they're not next to you, I mean, I have lots of friends that I Skype with. Are those not real friends?
Right. That is the hardest part. I mean, Corey and I have spent the last day together. He lives in Little Rock, Arkansas. I live in Madison, Wisconsin. And we see each other every week on Skype, and we do the show together, and we get a chance to see each other, maybe 2 to 3 times a year if we're lucky. But it is actually a little bit strange to be able to sit across and have a beer with him, and just be able to talk about stuff, because it's not the way that it's traditionally done. But like, my parents adore him. Like, they think that he's the best. Like, he's like the best friend ever, because they see us talking through podcasting, and we would not have that relationship had it not been for video games. We would not have that friendship. We would not have that connection if it wasn't for video games. And so I have to say that those people can just kind of take that and reevaluate their perspective, because I've seen some of the most amazing friendships that have come out of video games, marriages, connections of people who have something that only they share in disability or in social anxiety. It's fantastic.
I think one of the big things is that we can kind of probably all agree with is with that, even with the BlizzCon this year, the developer, his opening statement.
The president.
Yeah, that was my former.
Yeah, what he did was, how many people here met their significant other through video games, and a good 90% of the crowd, and we're talking thousands of people are in this crowd, raise their hands. It's just, you would get the opportunity to see these people and meet people that you're not going to be able to in other areas. I have friends in New Zealand now. There was a point in time when I couldn't point out New Zealand on a map to save my life. I've gamed with them. This is just the amazing things of what video games can kind of do for us. I do think that Holiday has a very important point with how gaming can affect or make us look down upon little life history things like that with your father. To me, that's pretty much a mainstream idea right there, is that, you just game all the time, you're not paying attention to other stuff. And that immediately puts that negative spin on it.
But that's like anything.
Yeah.
Drumming. It's any hobby that, we were talking about drumming, that's why I went there. Any hobby that you have where you're spending so much time consuming that resource, and you're not spending it engaged with others that, obviously care about you and want to spend time with you, that's where it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But my issue is less with video games and more with the fact that my dad didn't spend time with me.
You're right, and we won't get into that.
No.
But it's kind of like one of those things that all gaming has such a very important experience for us to give. Each game itself is a different linear or non-linear world. Let's take Call of Duty versus Zelda. They're both video games, both different classifications, both different storylines. Granted, in my opinion, Call of Duty just continually repetitive over and over again.
Don't be a judger.
I'm just gonna be a judger. And so with those things, they have something to impart upon us. And with that is one of the reasons why we chose this picture and we're not switching off of it, is that you are a gamer, not because you only choose to have one life, one career, one path to go down, but because you choose to have many. Different games are going to give you different experiences, and it's all about just playing around with the different mechanics, different ideas. It's one of the most creative spaces we have.
Something that I've actually started doing in my own practice with my patients when I find out that they do play video games is finding out what type of game do they play. Are they interested in RPGs? Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay, yes. First-person shooters. Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. But it's really interesting for me to see where are they going with that, and how are they using the game? What are they getting out of it socially? What are they getting out of it individually? And how can we use that in the room?
Well, I have a question for you too, Holiday. I think, you're dealing with children and families as well. I would say these days, being a gamer is less of a stigma for a child than it was when, we were growing up. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes, it is amongst children and amongst their peers.
Right.
Unless your parent is a gamer, most of the parents that I see are coming in and going, I don't get it. Why are they doing this? Why are they just in their room? And then I'm pointing out, well, have you ever met a teenager that doesn't want to spend a lot of time in their room? So why are you judging the video game part of it?
Who sat in their room as a teenager and read books for hours? Thank you. Why is that any different than us playing on a console or a on our phone or that kind of thing. I mean, we're going to talk about the phones and that type of thing. And,
Something glowy screens.
Yeah. Well, and whether it's a page in a book or a moving screen, it's something that is immersive and it is something that is occupying the mind, and so, but the stigma still stays. And so my question for you guys, both of you, is why we still have to feel like we have to defend ourselves as gamers, that we, even saying, I mean, I know when people were asking me where I was going on vacation and I was come to PAX, and it was like, well, what's that? And then I explained what it was, and the only thing that legitimized that in some folks' minds is that I was on a panel there. And, and that made it okay because I was actually speaking in front of other people. But I'm looking at that going, but I've been an attendee to these conferences all the time. I've done these types of things before, and I felt really weird about telling you I'm going to a gaming convention where I can play video games and look at hardware and see cool stuff and come home with more t-shirts. But why do you guys feel like we still have to legitimize it, defend it to people who don't understand?
You don't want to take that one first?
No.
Okay. It's probably because it's like a nuke bomb question. No, it's okay. I would probably say because of the way it's portrayed in mass media. You turn on any TV station, if there was consistently, if there's a school shooting or something like that, within 24 hours, it's linked to video games somehow.
You went there.
I went there.
I'm glad you did.
And it's so quick to be linked to that when there's a whole bunch of other reasons, but we're not going to get into those. But a lot of our research and a lot of things that come out that most of the time doesn't get published in mass media or things along those lines with these types of shootings are these people who unfortunately have this usually have some sort of mental health condition, but the games that they played were mostly non-violent. A lot of the research goes into this, and we look at it. But do you see about that being Fox News or CNN going in and saying, oh, it found out that this person used to like to play DDR instead of the Call of Duty headshot zombie game portion of it. As you can see, I'm not a fan of Call of Duty. I am a fan of DDR though. Yeah, we do. We all know DDR up here. So I think that's one of the things is that it just, from a society perspective, we're slowly gaining ground, but with time, everything takes time to kind of equalize and everything. Even think about girl gamers, how far they've come, and it's so fantastic to see them part of it, everything. And it's very terrible to see the discrimination that they still get. That discrimination that they feel is what all gamers should be feeling towards regular society, because that is what we are going against. It's like we're against the grain, and we shouldn't be.
It also goes back to you guys have your own culture. Geek culture is very real, and that goes back to this feeling of every culture has its point of existence, and then it spreads out, and you guys are starting to develop. You're coming into the mainstream, but every culture also has their own stereotypes. And so, unfortunately, you guys are combating your own. So, but the more that we have PAX South and BlizzCon and Comic-Con and Star Wars, the more we have geek culture infiltrating regular life.
Yeah. It infiltrates life much more than what a lot of people understand. Is that geek culture is everywhere these days, and people just don't understand it.
Well, it's becoming okay though. I mean, everyone has their geek card, and every once in a while, people will pull it out. And before, it was like something like we had to hide, like, oh, I like Harry Potter, you do too. It was this thing. But now it's, oh my God, I love Star Wars, you love Star Wars. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I do think that one of the big things that is the research that I'm doing right now is a lot of it's on personality of the video gamer. How do they identify stuff like that? It's using the big five inventory, just ocean in a sense. With that, I had gamers, 19,000 gamers, take it and had them identify were they a casual gamer, hardcore gamer, regular gamer, not a gamer, that type of stuff. And then I went and used it as a big variable in it, and it actually turns out it's not a variable at all. It's not even mediator or moderating, which means that it doesn't affect your personality or your identity on any level, whether you're a casual gamer or a hardcore gamer. All the personality characteristics were still almost identical.
You know, there's one thing, I think we'll probably open up to questions after this, so get ready. The one thing that I am wrestling with in my brain and want to know how we can do more about it is to bring gaming culture and the things that we do as gamers into our professional lives. So let me give you an example. We talked about how I've raid leaded in the past for World of Warcraft. And when you talk about raid leading in WoW, you're forming a team of people. Could be 10, could be 15, could be 20, could be 25, could be 40 when you were way back in vanilla WoW. And you're dealing with interpersonal issues, recruitment, with coordination, with people doing a ton of things that you need to try to discipline with it, you know. And then as a leader, being a good leader, being a poor leader, all of those things. But I can't see a time where I could sit down in a job interview and say, by the way, I'm using my raid leading experience to explain how I can coordinate a team and bring them to victory. And because I want to do that. I want that to be the way we can sit down and say, I've had experience with running. I mean, I am a leader of an 8,000 person World of Warcraft guild. That's 8,000 people. And I can't use that on a resume, but I want to. So how do you think?
Can you answer that question?
Well, it's one of those things where I think maybe it'll take a little bit more time. You know, as we have more and more people, you know, as people get older and they get into more powerful positions. I'll take an example. One of our guildies named Hokie, he got into an elevator with this gentleman who's got really nice business suit, briefcase, awesome, and he walks in. And the guy looks at him and kind of leans in and goes, "For the horde." And then he gave him a look and he's like, "Don't judge a book by its cover." And then leaves the elevator. So I think maybe that's part of it. As a lot of us gamers grow up older and we get in these positions where, you know, maybe, you know, like if you had your own business and someone came in and said, "Oh yeah, I did this and this in World of Warcraft," or I've coordinated Smash Brothers tournaments across 3 different states and do all these other things. You would know that that's real world experience and that's applicable to the job.
Hell yeah, it is.
So I think maybe that's one of the things is that we just have to, you know, it's a little bit of a waiting game as we get into these positions, as we seep into the greater jobs market and the communities everywhere. I think that'll be a step to help. What do you think?
I think becoming okay with who you are and owning it, and really being able to say, well, yes, I am a psychologist, but I'm also a gamer, and I'm really happy with that, and this is who I am. And being calm and not feeling as if you have to defend yourself, because there's something about being defensive and saying, well, I mean, I also do. As long as you can just own it and relax, that really that's a really big step in the right direction.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, and I do encounter that at work sometimes. I work in retail merchandising. And a lot of people will find that out about me, and I just, like you said, I own it. I tell them about it. Well, yeah, it's actually pretty cool. It's not what you think. It's this and this. And then you just stand there and like let it speak for itself, and just if they like it, fine. If they don't, whatever.
Well, I also think it's important that Marconin share one of his talents real quick.
Oh, come on.
I personally think that he got from video games.
You did. Well, you use it from video games.
You used
all
it
the time.
from there.
Well, I do. We do kind of custom audio stuff and other things, and I've worked with audio for other podcasts in the WoW community. So when I distinctly remember my stepbrothers playing Final Fantasy IV, and I was just watching them because I didn't really like RPGs all that much because it's just too slow. I liked Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter back then. But whenever a voice would come up, or they would have the scrolling dialogue, and I would do the voices. I would do the voices for all the different characters. And so it just it became the thing that I did to do accents, dialects, voices, and stuff, and I kept with it. And of course, World of Warcraft is a great example because every different species has a different culture that it latches onto in the real world, and you can translate to it. Because, for instance, the Trolls, they come from Jamaica, so they have this very island speak, you understand? And then the Draenei come from Russia, so they speak this way. She's a very good raid leader. I try not to step in the fire too much.
I pay him for that. But you got to do the one we were doing on the walk the other day.
Which one was that?
The English guy.
Which one was
Michael
that?
Caine.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
Michael Caine.
I apologize if you ever watched this, but I mean, what do you want me to say? It's harder for me to latch on to Michael Caine unless I say his name over a few times. Because if you say Michael Caine a few times, you get it in the end.
My cocaine. Say that out loud. Just say it, and then you're in Michael Caine accent. I'm serious. He had me do this on the walk the other day, and I'm like, oh, you're right. That works. Because
that's
I'm
how-
terrible at them, but.
But this is kind of like what we're talking about up here, and to talk about is you use these talents to your advantage. I love video games. I study them. I work with therapy gamers in them. I have managed to change her opinion, which was 3 years in the making. And these two use their talents to their abilities, and this is what we want for everybody. The gaming world has that for you. You're using it, it's going to be there, and it's going to continue to be there. And so it's using it for your benefit.
Yeah. Should we ask a question?
I think we should open it up for questions.
There's a microphone right there in the middle, guys. Oh, first one. It's right there.
He knows coming.
Hi, what's your name?
Baron?
Hi, Baron.
Hi.
Hey. Well, my question is, do you think that the stigmas associated with gamers come from ignorance of games or some other source?
Dibs.
Stigmas, I think, came from several different places and several different sources. Gaming really started back in the early 80s, late 70s?
Late 70s.
Late 70s,
Yeah.
early 80s. And so some of them came from a place of people who didn't really want to go and socialize, because socializing outside was, we didn't have the internet then. So it did come from a place of that was what they did. They would stay in their parents' basements, but maybe they were also young and lived in their parents' basements. It's not a big deal. So I think it starts there, but it's divided into this like world of its own almost. And being geeky is now very cool. It is, but it's become this. Back in the day when you're in high school, if you think back to high school, we all survived high school, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. But they all had these, their cliques, and so this is a clique, but it was a frowned upon clique, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I would think it's a little bit of, like in media and popular culture, that doesn't help us any either. As much as I enjoy the South Park episode about World of Warcraft, it doesn't paint us in a very good light. So,
Yeah.
I think
Screaming
maybe
for the
that's-
bathroom because you've been there sitting there for 2 days straight.
Yeah, I think that doesn't help us any.
No.
So I think that's
No, it's not.
a tiny bit.
But why is that a bad thing?
This is great
Because
for
it's
a bathroom after sitting for 2 days straight.
It's a very negative portrayal of gamers.
No. I'm saying, but why are we looking at that as a negative thing? I mean, look at this person is able to sit in front of and do something and focus on something for 2 days straight. That's great.
What? You would say that's great. Did you guys say that's great? No. Why? Why would you not say that's great?
It's a disorder when it begins to affect your ability to live life normally.
That's why. Because and that's the way it becomes portrayed in the media, is that, and you'll get the things from Korea where there'll be someone sitting at an internet cafe for 35 to 72 hours straight and dying because they didn't stop playing a video game. It's the extremist view, it's the reportable view, this is what you could become if you start to play video games, media frenzy that comes in there. That's part of it.
It's also fear-based. We're in a culture that lives on fear. And if you can get someone afraid of something, they're going to have a much stronger reaction to it. So if you get someone to fear a gamer because of what they could do, not because of what they do, that is much more powerful. We tend to pay attention more to the negative than to the positive.
Yeah. Come get your book.
Come get your book. Thank you very much.
I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Video games don't cause violence. What's the bottom part? Bottom part says lag does. I absolutely love that one, and I want that shirt. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Y'all talked a lot about kind of the conversation and the view of the exterior on gaming culture. I'm curious your opinions on kind of gaming culture's look at itself. I think some of the stigma, some of the unhealthy views, and even just, I guess, clashing inside can come from instances like, oh, she doesn't know that Zelda isn't the hero, isn't the guy in green, it's really the princess, she's not a real gamer. Stuff like that, like taking an interior look at how do we as gamers like talk about ourselves and
Like, I'm not gamer enough.
exactly, like kind of yeah
Yeah,
elitism,
crazy.
like to kind of develop a conversation about how do we share this hobby, how do we kind of decrease that barrier of entry for somebody to want to call themselves a gamer.
Are you leaning on more of the male-female dichotomy, or are you leaning more about like your dirty casual versus hardcore?
I honestly, I think I think they tie together.
Stigma.
Well, no, I'm just naming them as what happens. I mean, I'm not, this is what you will be on a podcast and you will talk to people who game and be like, they'll be saying, well, you don't play 30 hours a week of rating, so therefore you don't fall into my level. You are not on my level. Or, and then there's the, you know, she's a female, so she's not as much of a gamer as a male is. So there's a lot of those that exist in different, and in levels of severity. But I would argue that they are all as equal in terms of their hatred, in terms, you know, and how extremist it can be. It's, which one hurts more?
I would also say I think it stems from the fact that gamer culture is continuously under fire. And so if there's one thing that doesn't fit into a tiny little stereotype area there, it's going to create a big frustration right there. And so it's going to happen. It happens throughout life. It's going to continue to happen. It's more about going to be how do we handle those situations rather than someone being very punitive towards someone because they didn't know that Zelda was the princess versus Link is the actual hero of the game. I mean, common mistake for people who are just getting into the culture. We should shun them for it.
What we found is that our world is based around community, and community drives it all. And we start to echo each other, good and bad, when we start to build communities. And you surround yourself by positive people and people who connect with each other and support each other and provide each other with inclusiveness and harmony, and all of a sudden, that doesn't exist anymore. And it happens sometimes with us where we'll have people who just come from all walks of life that listen to the show, and they go and they meet each other or they talk to each other in our chat room, and then they connect with each other, and it becomes kind of an echo chamber. And it's a positive echo chamber, but it also goes to the negative side on 4chan, on Reddit, where people tend to echo each other's feelings about these kinds of things. So we all have opinions and we all have ways of viewing the world, and I just feel like community is where it drives it the most in terms of our culture.
I had an instance at work where a guy was wearing a jacket, Curse gaming jacket at work, and I was like, hey, I use Curse too. And he's like, oh, you play League of Legends? It's like, no, I play World of Warcraft. He just rolls his eyes, literally goes, and then walks away. And I had to like walk up and was like, what was that about, dude? What are you talking about? And he was like, well, you know, and I called him on it. I was like, you have no right to say this about me. You have no right to react about this. You're a gamer and I'm a gamer. We just play different games. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to fight that, I think, is what calling people when they do stupid stuff like that, and being the better and the bigger person, I think, is a good way to help combat that. Because I'm a hopeful optimist when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I think that's a good weapon we can use to just try and because if you call people on it, a lot of times it'll deflate them. It'll be like, if no one's got your back, if you're being a jerk, that makes you feel tiny. And you'll tend not to want to be that because you like having people backing you when you're a jerk. So I think that.
And finally, as human beings, we like labels. We like to know where we fit. We want to know that we are a square peg and we have a square hole, and it's going to go in and it's going to be fine. And we are naturally, unfortunately, exclusive instead of inclusive. And so those are things that we see in the outside world, but that's something that needs to be happening more. Exactly what Jules was saying of being more inclusive in this world?
Great question, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi guys,
Hi.
What's your name?
I'm Arthur.
Hi, Arthur.
So when I was very young, my father passed away. I was about 12 years old, and right around the same time, I was playing the first Halo game because it was out. Who doesn't love Master Chief? So my question, and I'm especially interested to hear the doctor's opinions on this. What is your opinion, because video games these days have more epic backstory than ever before, I would say. What's your opinion on game heroes as role models? Because I feel like a lot of gamer culture, everyone's got their hero from whatever game you may have. World of Warcraft is chock full of them. I mean, I'm just curious to hear your opinion on that.
Great question.
Good question.
It's a good question. I'm going to let her answer that first.
I think heroes show up everywhere, and so if you want to use them from a video game, go to it. Video games are moving comic books. There are lots of heroes in comic books. There are anti-heroes. There's, as long as you are getting what you want out of that situation, it's fulfilling some needs, it's letting you process some emotional experience, then more power to you.
Also, daddy issues, you know.
Daddy issues.
The first step is we all have them.
Yes, we do.
What I would completely agree with her is we found heroes throughout life. Star Wars came out in the 1980s. I mean, that 70s. Sorry, dating myself.
Sorry.
85. Nerd, gosh. And so with that, it became a very big hero. It's also called a monomyth, and it's by Joseph Campbell. He's more of a theoretician a little bit, but he helped actually create the Star Wars genre with George Lucas. And with that, we all need heroes in this world. And I think one of the greatest things, and I don't remember where I heard it from, is you either you die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And that's kind of what eventually ends up happening with everything. That's why in Halo 5, we kind of see Master Chief being portrayed through the commercials as a little bit of a villain here. He's had 5 video games. It's kind of what happens. But for you to gravitate towards someone that's strong, you want to look at the different types of characters, like the qualities that they embellish. And so Master Chief, strong, stoic, gets the job done. There to support his team, he's going to finish it. Those are qualities that I would say that a lot of fathers have as well. And so for you to look towards that would have been probably one of the best things you could have possibly done.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Hi, what's your
Hi, my name's Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Hey, Ian.
So I kind of wanted to share a small story with y'all, because for the Zelda fans in the room. So my nephew, he just got himself the DS and everything, and they got him Majora's Mask. He's only 8, so I'm watching this kid try and play, but he really doesn't have a grasp on reading yet, and he really doesn't got his numbers fully down. And at first, his teachers are telling, like my brother is telling me this story, and he's like, yeah, his teachers are giving him stuff. From the time they got him that game, in about a month's time, they've talked to the teachers, and he's gone through the roof. Because now he's in there saying, you need to teach me how to read, because I need to understand how to save the princess in the Jubilee Forest and stuff like that.
Motivation comes in lots of places.
Or his numbers, I need 455 more rubies to get the new shield or something. It's like, it just blew my mind when I saw that, because I think the danger people have, and I think it's becoming more well known now, is the creativity that games gives you ingenuity-wise, like to think. I think that's where you're saying people can maybe start creating these companies. They're going to recognize that real value in people, and those are the people that create new ideas. Because if you stick too much to the group thought, you kind of just stagnate in a way. And I think that's something I'm seeing in this. People really need to give it more value. Just not. And I understand everyone should be able to be accepted, for what they're doing. But also to understand, there's value here that needs to be seen more and not hidden behind this cloud of, well, it's just something I'm doing on my spare time. Yeah. It's more a learning experience for me. And I had the same problem when I was younger. I was bored in school a lot of times, and games were more of a way for me to fully flesh it out. Like, you would be amazed what you can do when you're more excited about it, or you're more entertained by it, and you just get sucked into the world. But
That's great. It was a great story, though.
Good story, yeah.
The only other question I really had was going back to what you were saying. about what was it? It was one of the first things you brought up.
About why gaming is looked down upon?
No, it was
Identifying as a gamer?
Oh no, well, I can't remember.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
I blinked on it. I really wanted to tell you all that story, and I kind of got it lost in my head. But I'll think about it, and maybe I'll come back.
Okay, yeah, come see us afterwards.
Yeah, we'll hang around.
Hi, my name is Jack.
Hi.
You talked a lot about how the different names that people give gamers, like antisocial or reclusive, and I had two questions. How do you think those names got attached to them, and do you think they'll ever go away?
You thinking specifically antisocial?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
I would say that the reason, again, it got stuck to them is because of the antisocial. People look for a reason to blame something rather than what is actually going on in the culture. We see it a lot in our therapy practices, whereas people will blame one thing over, let's say they'll blame the gaming that the child's doing instead of switching around the family structure. Oh, hey, your mom yells at you all the time, so you go and game that keep your spirits up. Oh, that's great news. Mom, stop yelling at the child. I mean, it's a very quick, and that kind of happens very, very quick, as we look for reasons why something is happening. We need to know. If we leave it unknown, it causes us anxiety. If it causes us anxiety, we're going to get even worse off. It's just going to continue like a vicious cycle. And so video games are just easy things. It was rock music at one point, then rap music. Now it's not on music, it's on video games. I'll guarantee you in 10 years it'll be on virtual reality.
Oh, yes.
Hands down.
Yes.
But it also comes from misinformation. I mean, I get parents all the time who, well, my kid's just playing in their room. Well, are they playing social games? Do you realize that they're talking to 10 different people? They don't understand. So again, it's using those teachable moments to really be able to let people know, hey, look, they are being social. They're not being reclusive. They may be reclusive towards you. You're kind of a jerk, so I don't really want to hang out with you either.
Go ahead.
I kind of had the same thing with my parents, specifically my mom. She didn't quite understand about social games and actually what I was doing when I was telling her about all this raid stuff and all the video games I was playing. She didn't understand it, so she kept asking, and I showed her, and I kind of brought in. I think maybe if, in those instances where the parents don't understand, maybe if they, hey, what are you playing? Can you show me how to play? Like, I think that's a good way for parents to kind of understand their children more. And so my mom joins us for the show in the chat room every week.
She does.
And we'll like post links that help us out and stuff. So she's become a big supporter of this, and so she understands. And my nephew, he's 9 now and lives with her. He plays these like little kid versions of Call of Duty, and he's not on microphone, but he'll say GG guys, GG, and she understands it now, more so than she did when I was growing up. So I think that's a good way to help with that too.
I also think that we have a problem in our society about learning how to communicate with each other. And as we've been doing this show, I've done a lot of studying about introvert and extrovert type of people and figuring out what that really means.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. But because I think that we don't always understand how to communicate with other people who aren't like us. We know how we feel, but we don't necessarily know how others feel, and then how to say those words that make other people understand. And so now you go to corporate culture, and they do all of these things like the DISC profile, or all of these things that they'll do where they'll test your personality, the Myers-Briggs personality tests that they do, and it teaches you how to communicate with other people, but your parents never taught you that.
That's why we have job security.
Yeah. Our job's not going anywhere.
But when we've been growing up as gamers, and statistics will show that a lot of gamers are people who deal with social anxiety of some form. And social anxiety requires you to find a place where you feel safe and you feel like you can communicate, and it's not always in a normal avenue of being able to sit across from someone and have a conversation. And so when we go and we game with people and we're having these awesome conversations through voice chat on our headsets, but you can't have a full sentence of someone in your classroom, it's a difference in how we've learned to communicate. I think there's going to be a lot more study on that too.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot more study. Nick Yee's doing a lot of stuff. He actually left Ubisoft and started his own company. So he is going to be doing some very interesting work, I think. He currently has 150,000 gamers across the world taking his motivational profile survey.
Wow.
And his stuff is really, really interesting that's kind of coming out of it right now.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be a big, big motivational expert in our coming years.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Hi, front row lady. What's your question?
Hi.
What's your name, by the way?
I'm Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
I'm very extroverted.
We like you.
Oh, thank you. I like you guys too. So, I play World of Warcraft. I raid with a bunch of people. I've raided with many groups over the years. And, you know, after a little while, if I kind of get a feel for somebody and I think they're cool, I'll friend them on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so when I was recently in Southern California to visit some family, my guild leader and a couple other people and their little girl lived 2 blocks down the street from my family. And so I said, hey, let's go get pizza or something. And we met up and had a great old time. And I was chatting with my mom about this, saying, yeah, isn't that awesome? I've been meeting with these people 3 times a week for 2 years, and I finally got to see them in person. And she said, oh my God, you put those people on your Facebook? They could be axe murderers. How do we combat that person on the other end of the line that you can't physically see as an axe murder thing? The stranger danger of it.
So could their neighbors.
Thank you.
Yes.
You actually have a higher statistical probability of your neighbor being a serial killer than you do from meeting someone
And of
online.
your kids being abused by friends or family, so, you know.
Well,
Sorry.
and I think it's changed since, you know, when I was growing up in the later 90s, we didn't have voice chat, we didn't have video chat, we just had text.
Yes.
You know, and if I, you know, the idea of me or somebody meeting somebody from across the country, it had that kind of, oh, they could be an expert because you know nothing about them. Jules, I see her face once a week.
Yeah.
I hear her voice. I know who she is because of this. It's so much easier for us to have these greater connections with people because you can see them, you can hear them. It doesn't, you know, they could still be an axe murderer behind the camera, but, you know, it's easier for us to get a feel for the people. I think it's better now, but that idea of it from the beginning of the internet is still around.
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway.
I was in college in the mid-90s, and that was when IRC chats had exploded. And at that point, it had entered into my college culture, and people were finding each other through other colleges and connecting through text chat. And my parents didn't understand why I was on this dial-up connection wrecking their phone line, because I was talking to all of these people from remote places. And it was scary and it was dangerous. And I did meet like a creepy dude that like he was out there somewhere and didn't show up to this meetup that we had and all this kind of thing. And then I realized this could be really bad if you're not careful. But my generation is now the ones producing children and raising children in that way, and we do understand it, which is good. But for your parents, they just don't get it. They just don't understand how you've met this person, that you haven't actually sat across from them and looked them in the face and said, okay, now you're cool because I talked to you the first time. I mean, Tony could be an axe murderer after having a beer with him, but I would...
He's not.
But the stigma of doing it backwards, where you haven't actually physically sat in a room with someone, is foreign to so many people. To when you actually say, well, we're going to hang out. I mean, I would argue that you know them better than you would had you just met at some, you know, meet up someplace without having, you've talked to them for 2 years.
3 times a week for 2 years. That's more than I talk to a lot of my friends.
Yes. But it's backwards to a lot of people, and that's why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question, and then they're kicking us out, so.
You can talk to us afterwards.
Because there's somebody else coming.
Yeah.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Jess.
Hi, Jess.
I've seen a lot in the gaming community. People almost like push the fact that they're gamers. Like, it's the first thing that they say. They're like, "Hi, I'm a gamer." You know, and I see the same thing with like the LGBT community. Like, "Hi, I'm bisexual" or something like that. Why do you think the reason that is because like the label, and you're trying to like make people understand, like, I don't know, like people, I see gamers always go to try and explain the fact that they're gamers and how it works and like how the stigma is real, like, and like this too, like explaining how it is. Why do you think
Well, to me, it's like they may have finally gotten to a place where they're finally comfortable with their identity, so then they're now projecting that deep down feeling of insecurity that they have out onto the world of, no, really, I'm totally okay with this. Well, I mean, when you're really okay with it, you just kind of accept it as who you are, and you don't feel the need to push it on to others.
I also think that it goes with you're gonna laugh at me because I'm studying for a huge test right now. The acculturation model, in a sense, is it happens with everything. At first you are part of the majority culture and you neglect the minority. Then you start switching to the opposite. You're more minority and you neglect or reject the majority. And in the end, and so someone that just kind of like comes out like that, maybe kind of a little bit in between there, working their way to that gamer identity of like, I'm a gamer, and if you got a problem with it, let's talk about it, but it doesn't change who I am.
I mean, outwardly, a lot of us identify our gaming culture by our t-shirts that we wear.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I walk around with a Mass Effect sweatshirt on, and someone in a Panera Bread will say, "Oh yeah, I love that game." You know, and I'll forget that I'm wearing a certain piece of clothing that someone then identifies with and tries to connect with me about it. But it's me wearing my label. It's me wearing my tribe colors in a way, you know, and my wardrobe is 90% gaming shirts because that's where I feel comfortable.
And cat shirts.
And cat shirts.
100%
I've
cats.
got the cat shirt on today just to represent, but the thing about it is that I think that we as gamers, like, I mean, if you aren't walking around out here seeing someone in a gamer shirt, do they understand what PAX is? And I think that we all have those thoughts about that. Like, we wear our labels on the outside of our shirts, but when Tony goes and wears a collared shirt, no one is saying to him, he's a businessman. No, he's a corporate. No, he's a psychologist.
That's because they gave us this special little thing that shows blue, and they can screw with me all
Yeah,
that.
we're still working on identifying ourselves as part of the community, and I am guilty of this. When I was on the plane flying out here yesterday, I was looking for people that I identified as going to PAX. Because I'm like, I know that person's probably going to PAX, and that person's totally going. Because you know what, I saw a bag of holding from Think Geek from someone carrying, and I'm like, that person's totally going to PAX. And I think that when you've got someone who has that outward motion like that, it's just like, I don't want you to be in my space if you don't accept me for this thing that I want you to accept me for. And if you don't want that, that's okay, we're cool, but I'm not wasting any more time on you.
Yeah. I'm also wearing a Zelda shirt underneath this.
He is.
And when we got married, his the groomsmen presents were everyone's favorite superhero shirts underneath their tuxedos.
They are letting us know it's time to go. Thank you guys so much for being here.
If you want to talk to us, come grab a card from
Yeah,
one of
please
us.
come up and say hi.
All right, and again, that was Traversing the Cow Level, the challenges of gamers in real life, the panel that Jules and I, along with Dr. Anthony Bean and Dr. Holiday Bean, did at PAX South 2016, just this past weekend. So thanks, guys, for listening. I hope you had enjoyed the panel. We enjoyed doing it, and we're so thankful for everyone that came out. So I'll go ahead and close this out. Torin Think Tank is a proud member of the Signals Media All-Star Network. Find out more about the other great shows in the network by going to signalsmedia.com. You can find us outside of the show on our website, torinthinktank.com, which is all of our podcasts and information on how to get in touch with us. Thank you to all those who support us and the show on Patreon. If you'd like to help out Triple T, you can do so at patreon.com/torinthinktank. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/torinthinktank, and you can also find us on the Twitter for the show at torinthinktank. You can find Jules at JulesRPG and myself, Marconin, at MarconinWow. Thank you, everybody, for being here and listening to the show. We will be back in action, back in our own podcast studios next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, I should say. We stream on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central. You can also find the video stream at twitch.tv/torinthinktank and the mobile audio stream through Alpha Geek Radio at tunein.alphageekradio.com. We love seeing you all here, and we love it whenever you guys listen live or on the download. Until next time, guys, for Jules, for myself, And for Dr. Bean and Dr. Bean that joined us this week at PAX, thank you so much, guys, for being there. /moo. Torin Think Tank. We make your problems less bad.
This podcast is a part of the Signals Media All-Star Network. For more information on this and other fine shows, go to signalsmedia.com. It's okay to stick our stuff in your ears. Really.